A great pleasure to welcome to What's Next. Stefan Hilger is the member of the executive board for gicom, and he's joining us all the way from Cologne in Germany, one of my favorite cities in the world, a very beautiful city. Firstly, a warm welcome to you, Stefan. We've got almost 30 degrees temperature. I'm sure it's getting pretty cold as you approach winter in Cologne, Germany.
It does. Absolutely, Aki. My pleasure. But it's been, a big difference from South Africa right now, but it's wonderful to hear you. And I'm very, very excited to share some insights with you and our esteemed customers and prospects.
Oh, fantastic. And I love talking about this subject. It's something I'm very passionate about. And it's really using technology in business today. How do you optimize retail profitability, negotiations for maximum margin improvements, talking about optimization in a business, the pricing and margin management and supplier negotiations and the SAP capabilities for pricing and profitability. And it's all about costs at the end of the day and customer experience. And
correct.
How do you remain competitive in a very, very rapidly changing retail market? And really, at the end of the day, it's all about the money. It's all about profitability. So let me start off by asking you, Stefan, how can retailers use SAP solutions to optimize profitability in an increasingly competitive market? Because it's tough out there.
Absolutely, Aki, I agree. And allow me maybe to give a little bit of background first. I think we all agree that, customers and retailers across the globe are currently facing massive challenges in, very, very distinct price increases. Margins are under pressure, highly under pressure. There's lacking visibility. So there are questions. Where do I actually make my money? Where is my margin? And there's also a lacking digitization. So in many cases, retailers are still, managing their profitability and their margins with paper or with Excel. And beyond things that I've just mentioned, we also observe things like shrinkflation. So, the packaging is getting smaller. Actually, the ingredients or the goods itself becomes smaller while the packaging remains the same. We see a change of customer loyalty, overstock, and supply chain challenges. Everything that we've heard I would say in the past 2 to 3 years. So the questions, Aki, that you raised are, how can SAP cater with those requirements? And I would say very simple. First of all, the very first step is to use, the standard capabilities in SAP with things like, finance or the capabilities called condition contract management, which already provides, some functionality to customers to manage and actually to settle all the bonuses, rebates, sallies, and tallies. And then as an addition, and that's probably the reason why we talk today, there's also partner solutions like those from gicom called SAP S/4HANA for Agreement, Profitability, and Negotiation by gicom, which can leverage unique capabilities in terms of digitization, creating a one-stop shop for information, plus simulation capability and extended visibility for retailers' negotiation and to enhance and manage financial instruments to protect margin and profitability.
Okay, well put. Listen, I should have asked this at the beginning of the interview. How does gicom fit in? Tell us just a little bit about gicom and what services you provide and where you fit into that ecosystem.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, gicom has a long-standing partnership and relationship with SAP. I would say it goes beyond 20 plus years. So we started in the early days when there was virtually no, digital means to manage, terms, contracts, rebates, bonuses, and all the nitty-gritty things that are associated with it. And in approximately like 10 years ago, SAP invited gicom to become a so-called solution extension. So that means the solution that gicom provided to many, many retailers in the SAP portfolio beforehand actually became a solution extension, which now equals, something like a real SAP product. So it's treated like an SAP product. It's part of the SAP price list. It undergoes the same SAP quality gate. So it's, as I said, it's treated like an SAP product. It's on the SAP price list. SAP provides the first and second level support, while gicom, of course, is in the background, ensures, all that's closely aligned with the SAP roadmap and the latest and leverages the latest SAP technology. So it actually ensures that the SAP customer really benefits from the latest SAP technology in terms of cloud, artificial intelligence. And as I said and alluded, gicom is closely aligned with the SAP product management to ensure that the SAP customer takes, really benefits from the latest technology in terms of rebates, negotiation, simulation, and the settlement process.
Brilliant stuff. So you mentioned earlier how important negotiation is. What would you say are the key elements of negotiation excellence that retailers can leverage to improve supplier terms? Because just that slight nuance there is an improvement in profitability, isn't it?
It is. Ultimately, as I mentioned before, the starting point, I would say, is really the digitization. So as I said, many retailers that I visit across the globe are still managing at least part of the process highly manual. So that means with paper, with Excel. So this could be the first key driver to actually take everything into a closed SAP loop and really care for the digitization. But to become more specific, what we observe is, an extended use of vendor funds, promotional agreements, and I think you would call it in South Africa a term called sallies and tallies, plus scale level agreements, or that are also equal to so-called thresholds that actually benefit both business partners in this area. So while we're all used to, the classic bonuses and rebates, which are on invoice or sometimes also off invoice, when it comes to vendor funds, it's actually, two sides actually or multiple sides benefit from those agreements, because you pay for something which actually boosts your product or boosts a promotion in particular. And that's really something we observe across the globe.
Very, very interesting. It's amazing when you talk about how many retailers are still using that old school of Excel and writing things on paper. And it's so interesting to watch the organizations that have gone the digital route and how much their businesses have optimized, how much value they're unlocking, how much more agile they've become. I mean, all of this stuff is quantifiable. It's quite extraordinary. So when you look at this and you look at SAP's role, how can SAP solutions help retailers manage pricing, which is critical, and margin optimization
Correct.
more effectively?
Correct. I think, indeed, this is a pretty unique opportunity for customers, because I think I strongly believe that SAP is far ahead of their competition in this regard. So, it actually, and to provide it in very simple words, SAP enables retailers to take everything back into a closed SAP loop, so to say. So starting from the planning process, through the negotiation, through the digitization of all terms and agreements. So to take everything, all the details, from paper into, a digitized process, all the way down to a settlement, to a fully automated settlement, plus, proper and vast reporting, that provides, not only financial values and financial numbers to the CFO of any retailer, but also provides crucial information to the merchandise department, so in terms of, where do I make my money? with which vendor or with which business partner actually provides me the highest margin or the biggest profitability as opposed to other vendors. So the comparability in this regard is quite unique. And that's actually something that SAP can really, provides beyond that I said, what I mentioned already, beyond getting rid of paperwork, Excel and other media breaks and get rid of, legacy systems. So the beauty of it, to have everything in a closed, in a closed process loop in an SAP space, with all information at a one-stop shop.
Now, what are the common challenges that you come across in retail negotiations, and how can technology help overcome them?
Very good question, Aki. I think the number one challenge is really to have access to real-time data and information. So you have to imagine when those discussions are occurring, and we're not talking about a unique or a single negotiation at the beginning of a year or at the end of the year for next year. Those are constant discussions going on. And I think one of the greatest challenges is really to have access to real-time data in terms of historic data. So what did we negotiate last year? What was the profit that you and I did in terms of a business partner, plus to really see the impact of the deal that is on the table. So for instance, if my business partner offers me a higher discount or a higher bonus, what would that mean, in terms of my margin or my profitability? And usually what happens is, I get the offer, then we leave the table, we calculate with Excel or with a calculator, we return to the table, and then we say, well, this is a good deal or a bad deal. We have to renegotiate. Here with SAP, it provides us access to real-time data and instant information in the discussion and in the negotiation. I think that's the number one pressing topic that needs to be mentioned. Number two is, of course, the lacking digitization, which leads to missing or actually in many, many cases, wrong data. So you have to imagine, again, you sit down with your business partner, you say, this is the volume that or the revenue that I observed from last year's buying volume. And then suddenly your business partner says, well, Stefan, sorry, but we have different data. We actually, sold you this and this amount of articles, and we see this and this revenue. So as opposed to your data, we have better data, which puts me as a negotiator in a bit weaker position. And our aim is actually the opposite, to put you or the negotiator or the merchandise department into a stronger position with real and accurate data firsthand. Plus, and that's the third point I want to mention, is the complexity that we observe in an organization with retailers. So you have to imagine, in many cases, we're not talking about one single sales channel. Usually we have different banners. We have wholesale activities. We have different regions, shops. Sometimes we have different countries. So in total, we have to consider different organizational aspects. And here again, in many, many cases where there's no proper digitization, our customers get lost, or the merchandise department and the finance department get lost because they don't have access to accurate data. So again, SAP provides you the possibility to capture all dimensions of an entire organization and provide you real-time and accurate data beyond, or that covers all your organizational structure of a single retail organization in relation to your business partners, which is pretty unique and quite compelling for every customer at this point.
No, very much so. And I'm just so glad that you've highlighted the importance of data, number one, but real-time data, which is critical, right? So when you look at that real-time data that's provided by SAP solutions, these must also, I imagine, contribute to getting better rebate strategies and, the profitability solutions that you talk about. That, I guess, is all part of that entire ecosystem.
Correct. I think a crucial point, again, that's all from learning across the years, and that captured many, many discussions with our customers and prospects. And we're all sitting in the same boat, is actually, missing historical data. So let's assume, we're now heading towards the end of the year 24, and negotiations are underway since August, September, where usually retail organizations start to discuss and projecting, the revenues, new articles, and the new terms and conditions for next year. So now the question pops up, what was the history in terms of what did we do last year in 23 or even 2022? How, was the development? Where did we face challenges? What was the situation? How did we leave the table last year? So again, the insight in terms, to historical data, and to have a so-called institutional memory is quite crucial. And again, something that I alluded a few seconds before is to really have the possibility to see the impact now, sitting down with my business partner, listening to a new offer. What does it mean in terms of my margin and my profitability as a retailer? What would that mean? Is it a good deal or a bad deal? So the instant valuation and to really be in a driver's seat and drive the discussion is a real advantage that SAP and gicom provide.
You mentioned earlier that all of this, we're not just talking about these things. There's quantifiable examples of how this technology and how SAP has made a massive difference. Are you able to share some of these examples with us on how SAP solutions have helped a retailer or whatever other business it is achieve the significant cost savings or profit improvements? Because that ultimately is the ultimate showcase of where we're aiming at with all of these technologies. So do you have a good example for us?
I have multiple examples, but, as a starting point, we have not left a single project within the last 20 years with less than 0.3% impact, in relation to the negotiated volume, be it purchase or sales volume. So you have to imagine if you have a retail organization that maybe has a revenue of, let's say, $1 billion US. I take US dollars as an example. And you just relate the 0.3% impact, you would instantly see, and I'll tell you in a second why this occurred, you would instantly see that the ROI is usually less than a year and the business case is quite obvious. So why did this occur, the 0.3%? Number one, no money gets lost on the table in terms of, all terms and agreements are captured digitally and properly in your IT systems. So whatever you negotiated, and you may be creative as much as you like, every single agreement ought to be captured within the SAP system. And the second level is, now that it's captured, we'll make sure that everything is settled automatically. So you get a reminder based on the supplies you get from your business partner. The system automatically calculates all the income, ensures proper accruals and claims. So virtually no money gets lost on the table, which ensures you, just as I said, from this very simple number, 0.3% upwards. And we observed it with retailers in the grocery space, hard lines, be it consumer electronics, drugstores, DIY retailers. Everybody confirmed us that this is the minimum value that we usually capture by implementing proper solutions and processes with SAP and gicom, and that already provides you a very, very compelling business case.
Oh, very much so, very much so. And if you look at the business landscape, I mean, I love using, the recent pandemic that we had and how COVID impacted businesses and supply chains and, the cost of shipping and all of these things that many retailers, didn't anticipate those kind of shifts that were happening in the market and the delay times in logistics, for example. So how does SAP enable retailers and really assist them to better anticipate these kind of market changes and adapt their profitability strategies accordingly?
I would say in very simple words, and I think it's a used term that many prospects and customers have heard multiple times, but I think the greatest or the biggest advantage is really to provide access, real-time access, which means, there are solutions in terms of in-memory databases, forecast and replenishment capabilities, plus simulation capabilities like the ones with gicom to provide instant information without any delay, to have the possibility to instantly react to changes in the supply chain, like price changes in the market, raw material changes. So I think one of the big advantages, and that also relates to the gicom solution that I mentioned in the beginning of our conversation, is, customers become very, very flexible in terms of the organizational aspect. So for instance, you decide, well, I want to try out this new product that my supplier has offered me last week. What does it mean in terms of calculation? What price could be reasonable? What promos do I need to consider? So in the past, this was a very long road until a product has actually been seen on the shelf. With SAP and gicom, it's now possible within a week. You just see the offer, you insert the calculation, you see an instant result, and you try it out and see, does it make sense? Do I need to adjust my strategy? Do I need to adjust my price? Where are the good deals that I have? Which products are not relevant in my assortment anymore? So I think this actually it contributes greatly to the changes and the effects that you just mentioned, starting from the pandemic, leading all the way to the impacts that we see today with the shifts in supply chain and shifts of customer behavior and customer loyalty.
Stefan, absolutely fascinating insights. Where do you see it going? I mean, what kind of trends do you see in retail rebates and the retail rebates approaches, rather, profitability, and really how should retailers be adjusting their strategies going forward? Because this market is a very fluid market. It's changing rapidly, and I guess that
Correct.
technology is driving that pace even faster, isn't it?
Absolutely. I would say, Aki, looking at the past 10 years, I would say you can really observe a shift from, I would say, traditional bonuses, rebates, and agreements that were all used towards more promotional agreements, or I would also call them verbal conditions or verbal agreements.
Right.
And that comprises a give and take for both business partners. Whereas in the past, the retailer was rather looking at, let's discuss the discount and let's increase the bonus from 1.3 to 1.4%. And that was actually became a pretty tough discussion with a business partner. Nowadays, there's a conversation going on where the retailer says, well, I'm happy to promote your product. I'm happy to sell more. But for this, I need an incentive. I need a special price. I need a chargeback. I need some incentives. So this is a very nice example that I'm sharing. So it's a give and take for both business partners, or verbal conditions like, you have to imagine when it comes to, let's say, DIY retailers, in many instances, I would see, because we started the discussion today with Sunshine, Aki, there that the retailer makes an agreement and says, well, if there's a sunshine for, let's say, 2 or 3 weeks, and a certain product or product line is promoted in a particular manner, be it in-store TV or a certain flyer, I get a chargeback on every product that we sell through our, via our POS system. So again, it's a give and take, because the supplier has a big benefit. He sells more products. And on the other hand, the retailer also has a benefit, because there's not only more revenue, but also more margin and profitability. So it's, a win-win situation in this regard.
Absolutely fascinating, and in a fascinating world that we're living in. And it's just wonderful to see the innovations that SAP is putting behind and creating these solutions. And I want to thank you very much for sharing those insights today. Stefan Hilger is the member of the executive board for gicom, and Stefan has joined us all the way from Cologne in Germany. Stefan, thank you very, very much for your time and sharing those insights. We truly appreciate it.
Wonderful, Aki. Thanks for your time. It was very, very exciting talking to you, and hope to catch up soon. Thanks very much.
Thank you.